Welcome to the Hot Lava Podcast. Kevin Acee, Padres beat writer for the Union-Tribune. Ryan Finley, sports editor of the Union-Tribune. We are in Washington, D.C. Ryan?
Yeah.
I know why I'm here, and I know that the listeners know why I'm here.
Right.
Why don't you talk just a little bit about what you're doing here?
Oh, it's cool. It came out on a little bit of a family vacation. It's a working trip for my wife, who is here all week for some training. But I brought the kids, brought grandma, the whole 9 yards.
Whoa!
And in one of the ultimate confluences of whatever, not only are the Padres in Washington, D.C., and then Baltimore during a time when we decided to be here, but today, Point Loma Nazarene's national championship women's soccer team was honored on the south lawn of a little place called the White House. And I put in for credentials, figured I could take a morning and go do that and help add to our coverage a week ago. And then everything happened Sunday while I was flying to Washington, D.C. from San Diego. And so Bryce Miller, our columnist, and I were, 200 feet away from Kamala Harris today when she had her first public anything since word spread yesterday that she'd be the Democratic presidential nominee. So I got to go to the south lawn of the White House today, which is pretty cool. And it's going to make every touristy thing and museum and Capitol tour that we go on for the rest of the week completely stink by comparison. It's pretty hard to beat south lawn of the White House. So
yeah, at least you can rub it in your kids' faces. That's cool.
Right. I also got caught in a rainstorm without an umbrella. I'm absolutely looking like the Rube tourist. But, hey, welcome to humidity. Welcome to Washington, D.C. And welcome, Kevin Acee. The Padres are maybe not hot, but taking 2 of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians coming straight out of the All-Star break when they were really slumping. That series seems significant to me, especially given where they stand. They're now 2 games above 500, tied for the final wildcard spot in the National League. Seem big. Last 2 days seem big.
Really big. And like a lot of series do, right? It changes the narrative a little bit, right?
Okay.
Like, what are they, 3-7 in the last 10? That's the one thing that shows up on the side of the standings all the time, right? And I think that's what it is. It just happens to be that their rough patch is, I think, 10 games long. And it was super rough before they took 2 of 3, thanks to their starting pitching largely against Cleveland, who, hey, had the best record in the American League. Now, they're a little bit of a slumping team, and I thought it was hilarious. It was hilarious to me yesterday to listen to Stephen Vogt and the Guardians players push back on the questions and say things like, oh, I don't think we're in a funk. Oh, and they are as bad as the Padres over the last 10 games in terms of record, and they lost 2 of 3 and didn't hit very well. Very similar team in terms of statistics and all that. It's when you play a team, and the Padres got some really, really good pitching. And I think there's a lot to talk about. Where would you like to start?
I'd like to start with the starters. Again, Friday night is about as ugly a Padre loss as I can recall in the last couple of weeks. They lose 7-0 in Cleveland. Bullpen comes apart late. To me, that felt like maybe an inflection point in their season. And then they turn around Saturday and win 7-0. And then Michael King looks fantastic. I mean, they've gotten performances from Dylan Cease and Michael King in the last 48 hours that show why I think they believe they're a playoff team. 2 guys who, when they're dialed in, are really hard to hit. And we can talk about reliability and durability and innings count, but you know what? Those were playoff caliber performances Saturday and Sunday from those 2 guys.
And I want to say this, and I probably should have written about it. I wrote about it to preview Sunday's game, and it came in, and then I should have taken a little pat on the back, though that's not at all what I meant to when I started talking 10 seconds ago. But I want to give Mike Shildt some credit here, because you talk about that game on Friday, and Matt Waldron allowed 1 run over 6 innings. Yeah. Yuki Matsui shuts out the Cardinals in the 7th. It's 1-0 going into the 8th. And Mike Shildt made the decision to not chase a win, as in put in Adrian Morejon. When they are facing the baseball's best bullpen, that has closer Emmanuel Clase, who, like no Padre except Jackson Merrill, who hit a squib single, has gotten a hit off of ever. Okay.
Right.
And so he makes the decision. He's going to keep Morejon Estrada, in the holster. Okay.
Right.
Puts Stephen Kolek out there. They lose 7-0. All right. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Fine. Next day, Estrada pitches the next 2 days. Morejon is available, and Suarez is available on Sunday. That is what a manager does, where he's like, I'm managing to win today. I'm down 1-0. This is killing me. I'm not punting. I believe in Stephen Kolek, but I got to save these guys. And right. I just thought it was masterful.
Well, it's funny. We've talked this year about him going for it when, if it was flipped, right? If they were up 1-0, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What we've seen from Mike Shildt this year is to not take anything for granted for the most part. To when you have a lead, to go to your guys, to ask Robert Suarez to pitch 2 innings or get
at 4-0, he probably would have put them in there. Yes.
Right. That he plays every game. We've been saying this since opening day. He manages like it's a playoff series more often than not. Rare is the time when he does what he did Friday, which is sit there and looking at what are essentially the odds, right? What are the odds that you touch up the American League's best closer? What are the odds that you give them 6 outs to do what you have to do in 3 or whatever it would be? And then they turn around and it's almost a mirror image game the following night, right? Is they're up little sort of midway through, tack on late while the Guardians bullpen implodes. And then again, yesterday you look at Michael King, no hit. I mean, I was on a plane where I could get text messages, but not Wi-Fi. And all I was getting the entire flight out was Michael King has no hitter stuff. Oh my gosh, Michael King has no hitter through 5. Oh my gosh, Michael King has no hitter through 6. I mean, he was showing why the Padres think he has really a chance to be something special.
They have 3 guys at the top of the rotation that, as you alluded to, make them think that they can get to the playoffs, right?
Right.
Also make them think that maybe just they don't need a top of the rotation guy, which is fortunate because the Orioles and the Dodgers do at the trade deadline, and the Padres don't have as much money or as much prospect capital to give as them. And by the way, there's 8 or 9, at least 8 buyers that are looking for starting pitching. So,
right.
We can talk about that if you want, but here's the deal. The reason I got into it is Randy Vasquez starts tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. After a day off, then they can go back to, and they do go back to Waldron and Cease. Mm-hmm. Then they probably will Michael King on Friday. And then who's the 5th starter?
Right.
So you got this really good pitching. I would even venture to say that Randy Vasquez is your 4 or 5 if Dylan Cease is pitching like he has his last 3 starts. His last 2 have been unreal. Skip 1 and go back to the Nationals, and that's another unreal start. Who he faces on Thursday. That's great. Michael King been pretty consistent, really, for a couple months. Waldron, been very consistent. 6th best ERA in the major league since May 11th. That's 13
right.
starts.
Right.
You need 5 starters, guys. You need 5 starters.
Right. So, no, you're right. You're 1,000% right. And, it's funny. Maybe the weather cooperates a little bit here, or doesn't cooperate, but helps the Padres here. I sat through a rainstorm earlier this afternoon, and this is the time of year when you get rain in places like Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I mean, if there were rain out in there, certainly it would save the Padres having to make that decision, wouldn't it?
It would short term, right? And then you have, and look, it's an interesting conversation because you have an off day next Monday, an off day next Thursday,
right. Yeah.
An off day the Monday after that. Right. Then it gets a little bit busier, okay?
Right.
But then you're after the trade deadline.
Right.
Now, I haven't looked ahead. I probably should have because of the rain possibility. I haven't looked ahead and seen if the Nationals have Monday the 29th off. Because that'd be a real headache.
Ooh. DC, Baltimore, DC again. Yeah, that'd be bad. Well, and here's the thing. Regardless of when their 5-guy pitches again, this is a team that needs starting pitching.
Yes, there you go.
We can put off this discussion for another 9 days if we want, but this is a team that needs starting pitching. This is a team that needs bullpen help. This is a team that I will contend needs a bat. maybe.
I don't think you're wrong about that. I just don't know that they have the resources and they have spent enough and have the players on offense to get it done. I don't think you're wrong about that, though.
I sent you a late night text, and I hate to do this to you, but I sent you a late night text last night when I got settled here and went, oh my gosh, Ty France has been put on release waivers. Ty France is somebody who I think is very well liked in San Diego, played for Tony Gwynn at San Diego State, came up with the Padres. Is sort of that what-if guy from that what turned out to be disastrous Austin Nola trade. He's not playing particularly well, but he could be the Padres could have him if they wanted him.
If in 48 hours from his release, he is not picked up by another team that would then have to pay the remainder of his nearly, I believe, $7 million at $6 million salary. So then, yes, then he, through a series of things, go back to the Mariners, refuse to go to the minors, become a free agent. Mariners can put him on his roster, whatever. He can become a free agent. The Padres could be a team that gets him. My question would be why? Why? He doesn't play the outfield.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I guess my larger question, and this sort of bridges us into our next conversation, which is Xander Bogaerts. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess, Xander Bogaerts is back, and Xander Bogaerts is hitting, which is good. It's created a chain of events that would make, I think, in addition to somebody like Ty France, very difficult.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy who plays first base, maybe a little bit of third. Padres appear set at both positions. You can't just DH him because that's where the Padres are putting the guy who is not playing the field in any given day, right?
Yep, they even put Jake Cronenworth there. So
right. So you can't really DH him. I mean, you can hand him an outfielder's glove, but I'm not sure that that's a good idea. And this is a guy who, frankly, is not playing well.
Right. If he were playing well, he wouldn't have been released. If he was playing well and he was released for some reason, you would say, oh, man, I wish he was an outfielder. But right now, look, Donovan Solano's not getting playing time. And Donovan Solano's hitting like 333 over the last 20 games or so. He's hitting 292 on the season. He was playing every day. He did not play in the Cleveland series. I assume he'll play this series, at least a couple games, because they face 3 left-handers again against the Nationals. But then again, to your point, and it's what I wrote about, had a handy little chart today in the Padres Daily, that means someone else is sitting.
Right.
Among, wait a minute, Luis Arraez, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado, and who is the other person that I have in there? I don't know where Ty France would fit.
Right. Agreed. And it's tough. AJ Preller, I think, is willing to be different and is willing to be sort of, let's put it politely, counterintuitive on some things.
If Ty France played shortstop, he's here already.
Exactly. Well, I think that there are criticisms maybe in the past that he builds a team like it's a fantasy roster and not necessarily fitting holes, right? At some point you go, well, if everybody can hit, they'll find a place to play. This is a team that needs an outfielder, and Ty France isn't an outfielder.
There you go.
Ty France.
A testament to how much we are intrigued, how much the Padres like him and fans like him. We've spent more time on a guy who's not coming here than anything else. And, hey, cool. But it just doesn't make sense. I got the trade at the time in terms of including Ty France, not Andres Munoz. But it hurt AJ Preller to trade Ty France.
Right.
Not because he thought he was going to become an all-star, which he did, by the way. First 3 seasons there was fantastic. Looked like the Padres really blew it, right? And last 2 seasons hasn't been good. But like at the time that made the trade, there was no DH guaranteed, right? And so, but now the bigger mistake would be bringing it back. And you just don't know. I mean, whose position does he take, right? I mean, if he takes, do you get rid of Donovan Solano because Ty France is available at 3 times the money? I mean, I'm not sure that it's just Ryan. It's like you had some cocktails on the South Lawn. You just want to talk about Ty France. No, he's not coming. Hey, and I have to tell you this.
Yes, sir.
In 2020, remember back COVID, right? I remember sitting on the lawn with my binoculars watching workouts, and I decided that I really loved Ty France, and he was a rookie. And I thought, he still, I think, had rookie eligibility. But anyway, he'd come up in 19. And remember COVID, we thought, oh my gosh, like Tommy Pham had COVID, and we thought like, oh, it's probably going to happen to every player. And so you're going to have guys playing all over the place. And I don't take preseason predictions seriously anyway, because what the heck do I know? And even people who do know stuff don't know what's going to happen. So I picked Ty France as my Padres MVP because I thought all these guys were going to get COVID, and Ty France would just play first, then second, then third, play catcher, and I thought that was, I'm going to go out on a limb. I love Ty France.
Right.
There's we've covered every possible scenario that he is not going to be a Padre.
Well, and I think the lesson we've learned with this 2024 roster construction is that AJ Preller has done a much better job of finding guys who are good fits, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Addressing need as opposed to getting best available guy. And I guess there's no nice segue here. Here's a guy who is a Padre and is going to be a Padre for a long time who is struggling, is Manny Machado. He was hitting pretty well at the end of the first quote-unquote half, has started to struggle a little bit here. What are we seeing and what's happening?
He's back to kind of chasing some bad pitches and missing pitches that he should hit. Okay. He was 0 for 12 and got hit in the back in his last plate appearance. That was his series against the Guardians. He did smack a heck out of a ball to the wall, and he hit some other balls hard. But I internally roll my eyes, and I may have just done it. I don't know. It's a tick of mine. When we start talking about that, like when a guy's 0 for 12 and but he hit some balls hard, it's like all we're left to talk about is how hard he hit balls. Now, hitting balls hard can be an indicator of things. Sure. But when you're 0 for 12 and you missed 4 or 5 pitches that you should have hit really well, you're not going well.
Well, and this goes back to something you've been talking about since February, which is as nice as all these other stories are, Jackson Merrill, Jerkson Profar, Jake Cronenworth, Kyle Higashioka, et cetera, this team is only going to go as far as now the big 3 again. We'll take them. I've seen good things, I think, from Xander Bogaerts. Again, it's a really small sample size. He just got back, but his bat to ball stuff seems to be pretty good. Manny Machado, we thought was heating up. He had an OPS of nearly 9 for what? Was it a month-long stretch heading into the All-Star break?
Oh, I think it was almost 9 for 2 months.
Yeah.
Month and a half.
Right. But struggling again. And then Fernando Tatis, it's interesting. You wrote something the other day that he remains sort of without a clear timeline, and his stress reaction is still there, but there does not seem to be any real setback. What more can you offer on that?
The inflammation is down, the pain is gone, whatever fluid, whatever, but the healing they expected to see, the imaging showed that it was there. Another MRI, what are we, a week from the last one almost? So next week sometime probably. You don't want to just keep getting these things. And you really shouldn't keep getting them. And so at that point, possible that you could even take another step. So there's no clear timeline, though. You start to do these things and go, all right, end of August, maybe.
Right. And if that's the case, I think if that's the case, it means that they need to go get an outfielder at the deadline.
Except, like I told you, I don't disagree with you, and I won't be surprised.
Right.
But they're not getting through this season without a starting pitcher, and they don't have a lot of money. Like, they just don't. And so are you going to get Jack Flaherty? Are you going to get – I don't think you're going Tarek Skubal, because I think that there's teams with more resources, both monetarily and prospects, that are after him. Nathan Eovaldi, are the Rangers really even selling? Can you afford him? There's 10 or 12 pitchers that are, they're not Rich Hill. They're like good, right? But some of them are going to be pretty expensive, and I took off the really expensive ones off of the list, and I haven't heard a darn thing about anything like that. I've heard Yusei Kikuchi from the Blue Jays. They can go rental. They can, as long as the price is not prohibitive, right? You don't want to get another guy who's going to make $20 million next year. You can't go Chris Bassett, all right? Gaussman, Kevin Gaussman. You can't go these guys. Plus, I think Toronto probably does want to unload some salary, but also you got to give up the prospects.
Right.
So and then they need a reliever. As Mike Schilt, I'm not saying he was sending a message to AJ Preller, because AJ Preller already knows it, but Mike Schilt was talking about the other night, because I was kind of pressing him on it here, like, you didn't chase the victory, which I've praised him for, but you don't have anybody then. If you're not going to go with Morejon, Estrada, Suarez, as you're going to say, okay, if we're not in the lead or tied, we're not using these guys. You don't have anybody else to, basically protect your 1 or 2 run deficit, right, that you can count on. Has Steven Kolek come through? Yes, he has at times, right? Has De Los Santos? Yes, he has. Who's the guy who's been pitching well, except for when he really has to, is Yuki Matsui.
Sure.
You need bullpen help. Down the line is a bat. Like, right. It's great, yes, but how many hitters come here and really thrive? And you need pitching, and you don't have a lot of money. You just don't. That said, Ryan, you're probably going to be laughing at me, because AJ Preller's going to find some way to fit all 3 in.
I'm surprised you didn't just mention Ryan Ludwig on our show. So, again, guys, big bat got at the deadline, did nothing.
I'm not saying that that's a thing, but it kind of is a thing, right? When's the last guy? If Juan Soto comes here and bats like whatever it was, 260 right, over the final 2 months of a season, or 2 months of a season, then, man, maybe there is some sort of curse. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Kevin, to me, the elephant in the room is Yu Darvish's status, not only because he's a guy who they need back, but if not, and if he remains on the restricted list for the rest of the season, they could, in theory, use the money they were going to pay him to add salary at the deadline. Is there any update there, or are they still in wait-and-see mode?
As far as I know, they're in wait-and-see mode. Supposedly, this is very private, and that AJ Preller is really the only one talking with Yu Darvish and his agent. That doesn't mean other people in the organization aren't aware of what is happening. It's that this is a really small thing here, and it is an unknown. Though you're correct, like, they've got, what is it now, 9 days to kind of have an idea of what is happening, and can they get some sort of clarity? It is something that they would like to get.
Do they deserve some clarity, do you think? It's a tough one.
Probably. I mean, right? Like you, it's life, right? And you were given, $20 million. And I forget what it is this year, right? Like, was it 16? Was it 18? You're making a lot of money. And regardless of money, let's not even make it about money, right? Like, you or I probably owe an explanation. Am I going to be back, or do you need to find a temporary person, right? I hate to delve into that, but I think it's a valid question. And my answer, I guess, would be probably, though I think that I'm walking the talk here and respecting Yu Darvish's privacy and the severity and the way that he's handled it. He needed to take care of what he needed to take care of. So, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, look, they weren't planning on having that money, and they were planning on going out and finding somebody. Plus, like, you start chasing, we got this extra money. Well, the Padres are doing okay, but you're not just thinking about this year. You're thinking about years to come in terms of what kind of salaries can you have? So there's just so much to consider besides just what this $7 million would mean to the Padres. But yeah, it's a valid question, and it is something that they would like to have clarity on.
Right. And Yu Darvish is, for now, a part of their plans next year and the year after.
For now, he is, though there is no guarantee of what Yu Darvish is going to do. Remember, this guy isn't walking away at 25. I'm not saying he's walking away, by the way, but he will be 38.
Right.
So, there is no guarantee that Yu Darvish is going to be back.
Right. Padres Nationals 3-game series starting Tuesday night. This is a team, Kevin and Bryce Miller wrote about them a little bit today. I think it's only natural to look at some of the players who are doing good things for Washington and imagine where they might fit into the Padres' plans. If this Padre team had James Wood, CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, maybe they would not have done some of the things they've done free agency wise the last couple of years, and they'd certainly be younger and cheaper. What about these guys individually makes them stand out? And not to rehash the Juan Soto trade, because we don't have a whole lot of time left, but is this sort of what the Padres thought all three guys would be as they developed into big leaguers?
Well, yeah, not to rehash it, but go and read Bryce's column. Is it up yet, or is it be up later?
Yeah, it's up. Yes.
Right. So Bryce spent a couple days here and kind of looked at it. Now that James Wood, who was the number 2 prospect in baseball, is up. So you have the 3 guys that you mentioned there: Abrams, Gore, Wood. The Padres no longer have Josh Bell or Juan Soto. James Wood in particular is a high-end talent. There are a lot of people in baseball that think Gore and Abrams are where they'll be, right? Like, not that they won't get better, develop into major leaguers, but we're not talking about, CJ Abrams was the Nationals All-Star, and he's had a good season, but he's also that guy, right? Like, he was their All-Star because they needed an All-Star, and will he continue to be this guy? He's a little error prone, but James Wood could be like a star, could be, again, has played 15 games in the major leagues. The intrigue is the upside they have, the upside the Nationals have.
Yeah.
Versus that trade's over for the Padres.
Right.
So you're going to only be watching what the Nationals get out of the guys that you gave away. And it is a fascinating road to go down, right? But would you trade the excitement and the chance the Padres had by getting a generational talent? And I asked it like, I already know the answer. Would you? I don't mean it to be like that. Would you? That would be my question to you and every Padres fan. Like, I would be interested. Would you?
No. You have to go for it. And this is a franchise that for 50 years never went for it. And then they did.
It's a huge part of it. Not just winning. The excitement of big names is a huge part of why this place gets 40,000 on a Tuesday against the Reds.
And if the Padres don't have Juan Soto, maybe they don't beat the Dodgers in the 22 playoffs. A. B, you talk about this trade being over for them. It is and it isn't. They used some ancillary pieces, right, from the Juan Soto trade to get Dylan Cease, right?
Very good point. Very good point.
Right. And, you can look at, not saying, hey, Randy Vasquez is the end-all be-all, but Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, Michael King, who looked pretty darn good 24 hours ago, right? Kyle Higashioka, who has saved them on a couple of occasions this year. The Juan Soto trade netted them more than just a couple of years of Juan Soto. It's also saved them, I think, a lot of money here in 2024.
Yes. You are correct. Absolutely. How do those guys figure in? And then regardless of how they figure in, do the Padres win a World Series? And then all is well. All is well. We keep going like this, and then the Nationals get back to the World Series with those 3 guys before the Padres ever do. And then it's just like, oh, man, can you believe it? Oh, and it'll be perfectly on brand. But I don't care. I will. Just like when I relive the Austin Nola trade, I can rip it. But I have to be honest about what I said at the time. I didn't understand Andres Munoz. I did understand Ty France. I know that they needed a catcher. They'd scouted him. I was like, terrible trade, but I wasn't saying that necessarily at the time, except Andres Munoz. I don't care if the Nationals go on to win 3 World Series with these 3 guys as their core. At the time, and with what it has done for the Padres, they had to go for it, man.
Sure.
And you are correct. Great point. I don't know. I don't know. I must have been drinking on the South Lawn with you. That is a great point. And that is because here's why I say one of my favorite things is how trades, the genealogy of trades. You watch these trades and it's like, here's this. And you are correct. Drew Thorpe came from the 2022 trade. If you follow the genealogy, and Drew Thorpe got you Dylan Cease.
Right.
So yeah, that's heck. The Max Fried trade in 2015 helped you get Drew Thorpe because it worked its way to Trent Grisham and Zach Davies. And I love that stuff. Great point.
Right. Well, and how about this too? We talk about the Mike Clevenger trade. Now we're going pretty far afield, but we're talking about the Mike Clevenger trade, which, and you've done a good job of reminding me over the years. At the time, Mike Clevenger was the best guy available in baseball, right?
Yep.
Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean that that's not what they should have done. And there was one player thrown in at the end.
In November.
Who just happens to be the San Diego Padres' best starting pitcher in 2024.
I think the Padres could, though the Rockies never trade anybody. I do think there's interest, by the way, in another player who was involved in that trade, Cal Quantrill, who would be the exact player that they need.
That's a great point. Hey, real quick.
I think a lot of teams are in on Cal Quantrill.
Yeah. Last couple minutes here. Any pitching matchups that you like in this 3-game set?
Well, they're facing Patrick Corbin again. They're facing Mitchell Parker again. Patrick Corbin, the veteran, and that'll be on Thursday against Cease. He actually had one of his 6 quality starts. He went 7 and allowed 3 to the Padres. The Padres handled Mitchell Parker pretty well. No, wait a minute. They didn't face Mitchell Parker. They faced DJ Hers. So tomorrow is DJ Tuesday, as we tape this on Monday, is DJ Hers. They're going to call him back up. I believe he hasn't been called up yet, but that's who it looks like is going to start against Randy Vasquez. The Padres faced him back in June when they swept the when they swept the Nationals. He started that game that they walked off. All right. And then it'll be Mitchell Parker on Wednesday against Matt Waldron. And then it will be Patrick Corbin against Dylan Cease. Yeah, no, the Padres should sweep this series too. And you know that I say that. If you're a regular, you know that there's no such thing as should sweep a team in baseball. But if you are going to be a playoff team, you're 52-50 right now, right? Mm-hmm. I'd say maybe not minimum, but let's just say minimum. You need to get to 86 wins. Mm-hmm. So you have to go 44 and 36 the rest of the way. Or no, 34. You have to go 34 and 26. You're only 60 games left. Okay? Right. You really help yourself out to get to 8 games over 500 by sweeping a team like the Nationals.
And I think that you erase all doubt as to what your trade deadline plan should be. Oh. You finish off this road trip like 6-3. Like if they could take 2 of 3 from the Nats, 2 of 3 from Baltimore, come home with a 6-3 record against 2 very good teams and a Nationals team that's really pesky, to me, that then makes it very clear, which is you got to do what you can to get better at the deadline, even though that's probably what they're going to do anyway.
I think it's almost a dream scenario. Mm-hmm. You sweep the Orioles, mm-hmm. and then if you are who you think you are, you freaking man up and you sweep the Rockies to pay them back when they come to town next weekend.
Right.
You go to Pittsburgh and you go to Pittsburgh and then Miami.
Right.
You come home. I don't remember who you face. You go to Colorado. My point is, you have a bunch of patsies that by the middle of August, you are to 10, 12 games over. And what I skipped over was, in between all the patsies, is Orioles this weekend and then Dodgers at home. And I don't care. Go 2-3. Go 1-4.
Right.
Because guess what? As I have said many times in print and here, that's what playoff teams do.
Yeah.
Playoff teams do go 1-4 against good teams. And then they beat the crap out of bad teams. And that's not something the Padres have done. But here's a time, this right here, I think this next 3 weeks is really a chance for them to build their record big time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Hey, I usually put you on the spot. This is going to be 2 seconds. name me your favorite Washington, D.C. area monument.
Not monument, but I mean, where you were today, I took a tour there once. It was a very good tour, and it left me speechless. That was back when we all had a much more positive view of Washington, and no matter what, we just did. So I'm gonna go walk around right now. If you want to meet me out, you and the kids, I'm gonna go walk around and see some things.
I like the FDR monument. Nobody talks about it.
Wow. Hey, I love that. The Roosevelt's kind of like a passion of mine. I don't want to make myself sound smarter than I am. I've read a couple books. Love the Roosevelts.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. Well, Kevin, enjoy your trip. Padres Nationals 3-game series starting tomorrow night at Nationals Park. That'll do it for this episode of the Hot Lava Podcast. For Kevin Acee, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.